My name's Ray Callas. I'm very excited to be with you today. And we're doing something we've never done before. I'm with a good friend of mine, fellow TMA member, employee. His name's Hunter Hewitt here. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. This is the first one we're doing together. So I'm going to turn it over to Hunter and let him run this podcast.
We've loved having you as our president for the last year. I think you've done a lot of good for the state of Texas, for the physicians in the state of Texas. And I think looking back at your presidency, it was intentional that you were the president during the session. I read your speech earlier, and you talked about how from Tyler to Amarillo.
Yeah.
And so I want you to kind of share, like, as you were wrapping up the end of your presidency, what was the biggest impact that you felt in the state of Texas so far, and what have you enjoyed the most about your presidency?
Well, I mean, the biggest impact that I felt right away is that whenever you get that pin put on you and, you know, you're representing not only physicians, not medical students, not alliance members, you're representing all of Texas. Because how we lead medicine and how we roll out medicine is not about just about how we practice. It's about how we deliver that care to patients.
You were the very first class of Leadership College, which I'd love for you to talk about and explain that to to the audience what that is. But from there, you've now become the president of the medical association.
Yeah, I mean
that's a journey.
The journey started whenever I was in medical school doing my thing. I got involved with TMA a little bit, but then whenever they said, "Hey, let's start this TMA Leadership College," there was like 12 to 16 of us that decided to do it, and I was in the inaugural class. I was the inaugural graduation class. I was one with some of the future leaders that are also here. Matter of fact, the president that's running now, that's going to try to be president of the 26-27 year, is Brad Holland, who went to Leadership College with me, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you know, I mean, going through that Leadership College, I happened to be a loud voice. I happened to be a very respected voice back then. I said, look, if we're going to go through the Leadership College, I remember talking to the CEO, Lou Goodman. I said, if we're going to spend all this time, effort, and a lot of extracurricular to do all this, we got to be given something. And so what he decided, he said, hey, let's give you a counselor committee. So I ended up starting on Constitution and Bylaws. Then I got put on Council on Legislation. Then I became chairman of the Council on Legislation. Then I got on the Board of Trustees. Then after I got on the Board of Trustees, I was the first chairman of the board to graduate from the Leadership College. And now I'll be the first president. And I love being the first president of the Leadership College. I think the Leadership College is something that really paid off, not only now, but it did in the past, and it's going to do in the future. It was exciting for me. That was one of the great things I got to do as president. I got to pick the other Leadership College candidates that I picked this last year. And matter of fact, they're graduating the same day
Same time
that I'm leading. So, you know, once I leave. But yeah, no, Leadership College was something that was awesome to do.
Yeah. And how difficult, I guess, was it to take on to the role of presidency? I mean, going from the Board of Trustees and like working your way up the leadership, was there a big step, big shoes to fill when you took over the president role?
Oh yeah. It's a big role because you stay out of the lane. Like, for example, you're president-elect, then you're president, then you're past president. President-elect is just a title. You really don't do anything. What you do during that year is that you're basically like a queen, like a pageant, lady in waiting. You know, it's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
I am there and been elected by my peers to be the president of the Texas Medical Association. But during that year beforehand, what you do is that you set what you think is going to be your agenda. You set what you think is going to be your staff, because you pick all the councils and committees. But you do, you pay a lot of respect to the president that's there. You don't get in the way. You don't talk. And it's not because I'm not scared to do that, but it's out of respect.
Right.
And so then about a month before you get into the inaugurated and become president, Connie Webster and Mike Durazet starts talking to you and said, hey, Come on up to Austin. Let's start picking your team.
Cool.
So I picked everything from leadership college to councils to committees to my chairman of the committees that were very important, especially my councils, all my council chairs. I picked them. And the one chair that was very important to me this year was the Council on Legislation, because I knew we were in the legislative year. So I picked Zeke Silva out of San Antonio, a radiologist, and it was a great pick. He made me, matter of fact, it made me look good. I just picked the right guy.
So what goes into, like, I think a lot of people probably aren't familiar with that process of you having to put together committees and councils and everything. So what went into the decision-making process of picking Zeke Silva and having the success y'all have now? And what would have happened if you made a bad pick?
I can tell you that what happens is I get these binders, and I'm not talking about a binder. I'm talking about binders of every demographic, every specialty, every primary, wherever they are, male, female, ethnicity, you name it. I have everything in this binder. How many years they've been involved, what councils or committees they've been on. But then what I do is that I have to go through, because Texas is a huge state. 254 counties, so I have to make sure that we're represented all throughout the state on councils and committees. So what I did is that I go through the book. I make sure that people that get asked to do it or people that get recommended to do it, I make sure I put them in a plethora of positions that makes TMA stronger. And so you were asking me about Zeke Silva. So what I did is I looked and I said, you know what? There's a guy that I know that's been involved in legislation. He's also close to Austin. He's out of San Antonio. That was very strategic. Also, too, before I made my appointment, I asked the two guys that are my vice chair and chair, Parker's the other gentleman, and OB Jen. I said, hey, are you committed to taking on this task during a legislative session? They both said yes. And if I made the wrong choice, it would not be on me. It would be on us, because I rolled the dice and put a gentleman that I thought would be a very boisterous, but a very, how do I say this? One that could tolerate the pressure that we're under all the time, that will be suave whenever he's going there to talk. But he was there. He's been up to Austin 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, I see him all the time.
So
yeah.
Hey, but I mean, you know, he's calm, cool, calculated. But the one thing I love about him is that he said yes, and whenever he committed to it, he did it with 110%. So, but you know, I mean, it was a dice that I rolled, and I happened to roll. I didn't throw snake eyes. I didn't crap out. Happened to throw 11, or I throw a point and I hit that point. So yeah, I'm excited that Zeke was able to do that. And I'm excited that all my COL members, all of the council, have been working very hard. I'm excited for all of medicine. I've never, in my 27 years I've been doing this, I've never seen this many people come to the Capitol during my presidential year. Never seen it like this before. Never.
I think this is an unreleased stat, so it's not official. But I think we have somewhere near over 1,000 physicians showed up for First Tuesdays this legislative season, which I think is an insane number.
Yes.
Just to come walk to the Capitol and testify for what they believe in.
Well, I'll tell you what blows my mind, and I don't think you know this. We had over 60 physicians here just last week.
Yep.
Last
Thursday,
week.
right?
Yeah, last Thursday.
Yeah.
Then I turned around and asked them, TMA asked them to come up this Tuesday. You know how many people are here this time as of right now? Over 130 that are going to be here.
Wow.
Today for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's crazy. And you know, I mean, what I love about it is that you'll hear it in my speech whenever I give it on Saturday, but or this coming week, I should say. But what I really am blessed about is that whenever we ask for a call to come, a call to represent, we had a lot of physicians take that call. Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, it's not about me. It's about us. It's about we. It's about getting that. My job was to be the quarterback of the greatest football team you can ever bring on the field. And that's the TMA. Yeah. And I felt very powerful in the sense because I stood on the shoulders of giants and I knew what I had to do. And I was blessed to have a group, Anesthesia Associates in Beaumont, that allowed me to come and to do what I did. Thank you. Thank you to all of y'all that allowed me to do that. But more importantly, I felt so comfortable in this role because I was so prepared to take on the beast of medicine, to represent all of Texas so patients can have access. And that's what I led with.
Wow. I feel like that end, what you just said there, is so powerful. And I think that's kind of the motto you've had through your entire presidency is, putting patients first, letting physicians do what they do best.
Oh yeah. I mean, we Hunter, I'm going to tell you what really bothered me this session, what I've never seen before. We heard a little bit of sprinkles about scope of practice. This wasn't sprinkles. This was fire hydrants, rockets, RFP. I mean, rocket propelled grenades.
Yeah.
You name it.
Yeah.
We had an onslaught of everyone want to have legislation to give them authority to be physicians without going to medical school. That's exactly what we went through.
So I think I really struggled to understand the importance of scope of practice until I came and became involved with TMA. And if you could dumb it down to a 5-year-old and explain scope of practice, could you do it for me?
Yeah, I can. I mean, let's dummy it real down.
Yeah.
Education,
Okay.
education.
Got it.
Well, I mean, I can't dummy it down any more than that.
Yeah.
You can't expect someone to be the healthcare leader if they don't have the education and training that we as physicians go through. And I'll dummy it down even more. If you compare what we've done, we were competitive. You got to realize I was competitive my whole life once I got in high school. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My competition started in high school.
Yeah.
I had to be the best that I could be in high school so I can get into a college and university. Had to be the best in high school to make an SAT or one of the preparatory exams to get into college. I had to take an ACT or an SAT and be competitive on that.
To get into medical school?
No, just to get into college to begin with.
Oh, right.
Then once I get into college, I have to make sure that I take the right prerequisites to make sure I have the science background. Then guess what? I have to be ranked high in college or my university at Texas A&M. Then I had to take this thing called the medical aptitude test. It's the MCAT. We had to take this aptitude test that standardizes everyone so that way they can look and see where you are.
Right.
Once you take that, then guess what? You got to apply. You apply to so many medical schools. I can't even tell you how many medical schools I applied to.
Yeah.
And then once you apply, you pray to God that you have the good MCAT scores. You also interview very well. And you also have great university scores that you're competitive in your own university to be on that high-end playing field, so to speak, to get into medical school.
Yeah.
So I interviewed at 5, 6, 7 medical schools, got accepted into UTMB. You're thinking, oh, that's great. No. The work just starts because, you're now going into a profession to where, you got the entry level, the gate opened up and allowed you to enter into the physician realm.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's handed to you. There's no corners being cut in medical school.
No.
There's no online training in medical school.
Yeah.
Medical school is what it is.
So what's happening with scope of practice are these nurse practitioners, these midwives, all of these other professions are trying to act as physicians without the training, correct?
Correct.
Essentially?
With like for us, and this is a statistic that a lot of people like to talk about, we have, when we come out and ready to rock and roll, we're over 16 to 20,000 hours of education and training.
Yeah.
They're at 500. I'll give them 750. But 750 hours, just do the math.
It's a fraction of what y'all are in.
Just say 8 hours a day times 5 days a week is 40.
Yeah.
You're talking about 12 and a half weeks.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
No, we're talking about we do thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. Yeah. So that's me dumbing it down, and there's no disrespect. No. I think that we work very well as a collaborative group, but them that oversee and deliver that healthcare is crazy to me.
Yeah, something that you've said to me before at your home was, I want physician-led healthcare. Doesn't mean I don't want nurse practitioners on my team.
Correct.
That means I just want a physician leading the healthcare.
Totally agree.
And then allow the others, professions to assist in that process.
Totally agree.
I think so many times people think that you're trying to take away their profession.
No.
That's not the case.
No, I'm tired of them trying to take my profession away.
Right.
And the reason why it makes me upset is because what we want and what we need to do is that we're a large, large state.
Mm-hmm.
We need to empower everything from AI to telemedicine to the collaboration of the healthcare team to where we make Texas healthier. And the only way we're going to do that is by making it physician-led care. It shouldn't matter if I live in a 400-person city, community, or a metropolitan like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. We should all have the same opportunity to have that physician-led care. And that's all I've been trying to do.
So, not to steel man or anything, but I've heard a lot of the scope of practice arguments come from the rural
Yes.
counties and areas. And in my eyes, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong, I see it as you would think those rural counties want to be led by physicians, but instead they feel like they don't get enough, or I don't even know their full argument. But what is the argument, and why do people believe that this is needed in these rural communities?
I think the argument comes is because there's multiple factorial things going on.
Okay.
One is that if you don't have, which we know at TMA, if you don't have about a 3,000 or 4,000 lives that you got to take care of, you cannot maintain a practice to be sustainable, because what you're dealing with is that you don't have the Hunter Hewitts that lives in Austin that has a good job and that has insurance benefits. A lot of these smaller communities don't have insurance benefits, or they have Medicaid or Medicare, and those payment models have been completely broken for 20 plus years. So what you have to do is you got to approach it a total different way. So first of all, we have to fix Medicare payment reform. We have to improve Medicaid also as well payment, so that way we can improve access. The other thing we have to do is that we have to continue, just like, for example, I'm from Galveston, Texas, okay? The acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, so to speak. I didn't move to Dallas, Texas to practice medicine. I went to Beaumont, which is just right up the street. Yeah. What we're saying is that if we bring physicians or kids that are in college, universities, or that go to medical school, they usually go back. Yeah. And if we can get them to go back, let's get them to go back and become primary care. If we can give them that access to go back, which we did pass a bill out of the Senate and off the Senate floor, 2695 from Cold Course, which is doing that. The other thing we need to do, too, is to continue to have AI and physician-led care with the use of telemedicine and not jeopardize that collaboration. We want to allow, if there's a nurse practitioner that's already down in the valley or that's in a small community, I've already been the voice of medicine to say, hey, we'll waive your delegation fees. No fees at all. No fees. So if you were paying $500 a month, $600 a month, $700 a month, you don't have to pay that. So that money that you were paying out, and it will help you sustain your practice down there.
That literally defeats everything. I mean, that's
totally
like
agree.
You're solving the problem.
You know what else I did too? They were complaining and saying we can't find a physician. Well, guess what I did? I went to Texas A&M University and I said, hey, the Dean of Medicine, Amy Ware. I said, hey, would you be willing to take this on? She said not only no, but she said not only no. She was so excited. She didn't even know what to say. She's excited about doing this because what they want to do is that they want to be the physician leader into the small communities, and to have the president of the Texas A&M University system that's on board with it, having a chancellor on board with this, having the dean of medicine on board with this. We are now allowing a pathway to where we have physician-led care, nurse practitioners that have no delegation fees. They don't have to stress out about it. But this is going not only just in the College Station area. We're going to the Valley. We're going to West Texas. We're going to North Texas. We're going to East Texas. We are partnering with all the medical schools to improve rural access for primary care. That's the ultimate goal.
I feel like that solves. I mean, that I don't know what the argument would be against that. It doesn't make sense.
No, I mean, the other thing we're doing, too, is that there's another bill that we're talking about that if you want more physicians into the state of Texas, we're getting, you know how many physicians we get every year? Last year, we had 7,700 new physicians.
Yep.
We also had 16 medical schools fill and the residency spots all matched.
Right.
And you know what else? Marcia Collins let me know that we're seeing more and more going to primary care. So we're doing what we're being asked to do. But you know what else is good, too, is that we're looking at a possibility of passing a bill this session to where we bring 4 medical grad physicians to where they can come to the state of Texas and practice use primary care in the rural communities.
Wow.
They're already educated and trained. We just have to come up with a better pathway to where we're not lowering physician. We don't want somebody that doesn't have the same quality as a primary care physician now coming in and doing things. But there's multiple ways that we're trying to skin a cat to make Texas healthier. And what we're doing is that, have you heard me once say that we should use nurse practitioners? We shouldn't use mid-levels? No. But we have to work together in concert and try to alleviate that stress. And the stress that I heard from the nurse practitioners was two things, and I've solved their issues. One was the high and absorbent delegation fees. How can it be any higher if it's zero?
If it's zero, no, you solve it. And the second is, I'm sure.
The second is making sure physicians are willing to oversee.
Right.
And we've solved that.
Right.
So we're doing what we said we're going to do.
Wow. Something else you mentioned that I've heard you talk about in the past was Medicare and Medicaid payment.
Yeah.
And how it's a broken system.
Totally.
They've 20 years. I think they've given you a cut every single year.
Totally
right.
Agree. And we got a great 2.83% cut this year.
So good.
With a 3.1% increase. So it's basically we've got a 5% shave, which is crazy. Why everybody else got increases. I'm talking about everyone else got increases.
Everyone else as in like what? Different professions or what?
I'm talking about mid-level providers, hospitals, wow. ASCs, you name it. They got raises. We didn't get a raise again.
Wow. And y'all haven't gotten one in 20 years.
No, 20 plus years.
So what happens? Let's play hypothetical. What happens if this continues to happen for the next 10 years?
10 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
No. I'm saying if we go 10 years, you're not going to see physicians going anywhere. They're going to be employed. Private practice is going away. You're going to start seeing people not even go to medical school anymore. Because if you don't have a system to where Medicare payment is fixed based on medical economic index or cost of inflation per year, you're not going to have the independent practice or the people drive or strive to become physicians.
So let's clarify, because I think I kind of lost you there. You're saying that is right now inflation, everything is getting more expensive.
Yes.
Y'all are getting paid less.
100%.
And
office overhead is cranking up even higher. So to order supplies, to keep the electricity on, to hire staff, all that stuff continues to climb. But if my Medicare payment is staying the same or dropping every year,
right.
And guess what? Medicare also is tied to commercial rates. So if I tell you that I'm getting paid, say at United, I'm making 120% of Medicare. If I got a 2.83% cut of Medicare, I got a cut on my United commercial base too. So that's the problem. And the reason why it's such a big concern, if we don't fix this, Medicare payment is going to continue to drive physicians out of the practice of medicine. Matter of fact, I'll tell you about one that everyone knows in TMA, Michelle Berger. She's our Texas delegation chairwoman. Mm-hmm. She literally has been pushed out of medicine as an ophthalmologist, a specialist, as an ophthalmologist, because Medicare payment could not keep up with the cost of her running her business. So this is the stress and the sadness that we see. And you know what? It's an easy fix, and it's not an expensive fix compared to how much we waste money on people not having access to care.
Yeah. So do you know the percentage off the top of your head, or a rough percentage of how many people are using Medicare and Medicaid versus like their own insurance, or
I would say that the people that are getting commercial-based insurance is steadily dropping less and less for multiple reasons. One, baby boomers are at an all-time high right now,
right.
And once you get past 65, you can get on Medicare. The Medicaid debacle that we're dealing with right now, Texas is not going to be for Medicaid for all. I think that what we're doing, and we're showing that it works, is that we did improve Medicaid payments for postpartum women for 12 months after they have a baby. That's showing to be very effective. But we have to be calculated and with scalpel precision to see where we will influx Medicaid payments to help offset. Because if you give someone Medicaid that had no insurance, that gives them an opportunity to maybe find a primary care home instead of using the emergency room as their primary care home. So that's what we're trying to solve right now.
Got you. And what's the first step to getting that fixed? like to getting Medicare and Medicaid to up their
First step is at Medicare and Medicaid are two totally different systems.
right?
Medicare is a federal system.
Okay.
Medicaid is a state-funded system.
Okay.
Medicare needs to be fixed because that affects every type of payment modality. Like I told you, it's all tied to commercial base. Where we wanted to go, and we had a bill, it didn't move yet, is that we had a Medicare fix this year that would put a Band-Aid on it and then ask this legislative session as they move on. Now that you have Trump White House, you have a Republican Congress, and you have a Republican Senate, we were thinking that we could totally make it to where we could fix Medicare to where we literally stop the cuts. We put it a Medicare index, inflation index, an MEI that would allow this to where we don't have to come every year to look at it.
Right.
Right now, we have not been successful. So Texas, we have decided to partner with 4 other states, New York, California, Florida, Pennsylvania, and we're trying to work together. Even if the AMA is not working hard, we're working hard on coming up with solutions to where we can go to Washington, D.C. and try to get that solved. And that's what we're committed to doing.
You mentioned the AMA, even if the AMA is not doing it. How important, talk about, I mean, you're the president of the largest medical association in the United States. Talk about how important it is that these medical associations are standing up for the things that maybe the AMA isn't.
I think it's very important. I also believe, and I believe that being a member of the AMA is very important. And the only reason why I recommend that is because whenever we at Texas have membership, our number of delegates to the AMA is based on membership. But I do see, I mean, I hear it all throughout the state. We love being a member of TMA, but I don't like being a member of the AMA.
Yep.
And you know what the problem is what we've just talked about. If you have the biggest need and the biggest problem that we're dealing with is Medicare payment, and that's not your number one agenda item, it's hard for me to sell that to physicians.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
For sure.
You know, so
Sure.
as we move forward, I think that my goal after I'm done being president is to work my butt off on the Texas delegation to be that loud voice to get Medicare payment reform done. That we have to get that done. And the reason why we have to get it done, because I want to make sure that medical students throughout the United States that are sacrificing from day one, like we talked about, that they will have an opportunity to put a shingle on the side of a building and say, hey, I'm a private practice physician. And also for they can be paid appropriately for what they've been sacrificed their whole life.
There's no other profession that I know of that goes 8 to 12 to maybe even 13, 14 years without being compensated
Totally agree.
for the, you know,
We're borrowing money.
yeah.
I mean,
a lot of debt.
A lot of debt. And plus, even whenever we're in residency, I remember I was getting paid $29,000 to $33,000 a year. I was making $2.40 an hour.
Oh, that's so bad. I literally heard, I was talking to a medical student just a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about the same thing, is how poorly paid the residency programs are, and it just makes no sense.
No, I mean, the other thing too is that we have to do a better job. Texas does a phenomenal job. TMA is 60,000 members strong and growing and growing. But the problem is that we penetrate because we play well in the paint. We don't like people to tell us how to become physicians and how we're going to practice, so we're very boisterous. What I'd like to see is somehow for us and our momentum to take over at the AMA level, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be that squeaky wheel because we're only as strong as we are as united.
Right.
And the problem is that in TMA, in Texas Medical Association, when we speak, people listen to us.
Yeah.
And I want to continue to create that in every state throughout America because we cannot lay standstill. We cannot we can't tread water. This is the biggest issue that we're facing right now is Medicare payment.
Yeah.
By far.
Very powerful. What's next for you? I mean, we're talking about a lot of what you've been doing, but what's your plan now? I mean, you probably have some more time on your hands.
As a matter of fact, I got a lot of time on my hands now. So number one is going home and talking to my wife and my kids because they sacrificed many many years.
Mm-hmm.
I missed many dance recitals.
Mm-hmm.
I've missed many cheer, dancing. What do you call it? Not cheerleaders, but the drill team.
Drill team.
Drill team. I missed a lot of that. I've also missed sometimes whenever I had to be in the trenches to fight. I've missed a lot of things with my family, including my mom, my father, my brother, name it. I've missed family time.
Yeah.
But, I've been blessed because my family has forgiven me for that because they knew that was a fire in my belly.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to really reflect on how I can still be Ray Callas. And Ray Callas is a bundle of energy. Fire.
Yeah.
What I want to do is that my calling for medicine might have stopped now because I'm done. I've done everything I've wanted to do, and I've been blessed to be not only very effective when I was COL chair, very effective when I was board chair, very effective, I hope, being president. But now I'm being asked to do something that I think a lot of people would be excited, is that they might get to see a physician represent them in that, what we call that orange building up there, that Capitol building.
Yeah.
So I'm being asked to maybe look at a run for a Senate race or a state house race. And the reason why I want to stay in Texas right now is because I could still work and still be a part of the group that I love. I'm part of the oldest medical practice in the state of Texas. Our group, Anesthesia Associates, we've been around since 1952. And since they've given me, they're the ones that made me successful too, to be honest with you. Whenever I first joined them, when I signed a contract in 2003, they said, we need someone that's going to be the voice of medicine. And so, I've done everything as an anesthesiologist. I was the president of the Texas Society of Anesthesiologists. They also helped me cut my teeth. And then, AA and my partners, thank you very much for allowing me to do this. But you know what? There's so much fire in my belly. And I think the fire that I bring, I'm very passionate about what I do, but I'm very calculated. I'm very educated. I understand the issues. And I think if I get an opportunity to be that senator or to be that state rep, I think you're going to see me do big things.
I think there's no debating that. I think what's interesting about what you just said is you mentioned that you wanted to stay in Texas. You probably could take an opportunity out of the state and chase the money and do.
I've already been asked that.
Right.
Not going to do that.
That shows so much power in what you were just talking about earlier, where, you grew up in Galveston.
Yeah.
I grew up in Galveston too.
Uh-huh.
You went back to practice in Beaumont. You're really grassroots, local leader in your community. And I think that instills, and that will stay the same as you're, a representative or whatever route you do go in leadership. I just think it speaks volumes to who you are.
I think I'd be selfish if I stopped public service. And I really do believe that. I think my wife would even be upset if I stopped public service.
Yeah.
Because she knows that drives me.
Yeah.
I get up every single morning. A lot of people don't know this. There's something I do every single morning. I get up. As soon as I get up at 4 o'clock, 4:15 every morning. I go to my computer and I read about current events.
Yeah.
I also read about how I can make TMA stronger as the president of TMA. Then I also say my prayers. Then I also start sending emails. If you look at and you get an email from Ray Callas, you're not getting it at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're getting it at 4:15, 4:30.
Yeah.
And then I also keep a little diary, a journal of what I think is important. And so, that's just what I do. And then now, during this legislative session, it's made me feel so good that I've had the governor's office, I've had the lieutenant governor's office, I've had many senators, state reps call me and say, hey, what is your feeling? What is your position on that? But I'm just saying, Hunter, that I know my calling is still there. I know I have bigger political aspirations. But let me tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be the one dictating that. It's people telling me, Ray, this is what I'd like you to do next. So, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you you want me to take on a challenge, I am going to be that physician leader, hopefully one day in that House or in that Senate, and you can come to me and we can pass great legislation. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I think what's so great is you're really good about listening to, you're the voice of the physicians. And referencing your speech again, I've seen you personally talk to physicians, hear what they care about, ask these questions, really try to understand the struggles that they're having in addition to what you're doing at your own practice, and you're bringing that to the legislator, and you're advocating on behalf of not just physicians, but I think Texas.
Yeah.
I think that's really
I
important.
mean, before we get done, I just want to say, I want to thank the physicians and the medical students and the Alliance members. I have never, like I've said it again, but I want to be out there with this. I've never seen so many people come to First Tuesdays, and I've never seen people take that call. Every time we had a hearing, we had over 50, 60, 70, 80 physicians come, and they didn't just come for an hour. One day we were here at 7 a.m. We didn't get out until after midnight. So, I mean, it's that commitment, and it's all about making sure that when TMA calls, the physicians are ready, and we're only as strong as we're bonded together. And so it's been an honor and privilege to be the president of the largest and the best medical association. It's going to be sad.
It is going to be sad,
but
I think it's not that it's a bittersweet, because I think this is like when one door closes, we all know another door opens.
Right.
And I think that this next door is going to be greater, a bigger opportunity for you, but not just that, but you're going to do so much good for the state of Texas and for not just physicians, but you're really opening your doors to be able to help all of Texas.
Well, that's good. And what made me feel good is that I sat down this past Saturday, and wrote my final speech. You got to read it.
Yeah.
It's all about what I believe, and I hope everyone gets to hear it, because it's going to be very emotional.
Yeah.
When I fire that 6 minutes, that's the last 6 minutes, but it's 6 minutes that's coming from the heart. Yeah. So,
you mentioned that you journal daily. How important has that been for you? For the last 20, 30 years of your career?
Oh, it's been great. Like, for example, if I read something, I write down. And so, like, when my wife grabs something, I don't let her throw anything away. And I mean, like, if you got her on this video, she'd make fun of me because my desk is a clutter. Well, you see my desk.
I've seen your desk.
I mean, I got stuff all over it.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's important is because there's multiple things on that desk that I don't throw away. Like, for example, one of the things on the desk was from a physician that gave it to me, and that said, "Hey, I hope you do well. This physician is no longer alive." And so, I mean, there's stuff that I have on that desk. There's a letter that I got when I became president from Governor Abbott that says, "Ray, good luck. I know medicine's in a better place." I'm not throwing that away. And so what I do is that, like, if I read something, or if I know something's important, I write, like, say that we're talking about, I'm just going to make it up. Say that we're talking about scope of practice. I'll write down on a piece of paper saying education, work ethic. And, so it's just things that I think about whenever I'm processing, and especially when I know I'm getting ready to come testify. There's things that I'm grabbing from different people to make me stronger. And so that's just what I try to do. That's how I do things.
Yeah. You've been testifying a ton this legislative season. What goes into the preparation process? I mean, I could only imagine it's a lot of like studying, like memorization, notes, but what goes into the day-to-day like preparation work for that? So
if I'm going to go in and I know I'm testifying, and mind you, I've been asked to be the expert witness, or I've been invited testimony, so I know that what I'm about to say is going to be asked a lot of questions. So what I do is the first thing I do is I go through where I'm going. So if I was going to state affairs, or if I'm going to public health, or if I'm going to Senate health, I look at the committee members and I look to see what their game is. And so if I know that they're pro-medicine, pro-business, they're attorneys, they go to Catholic church, they're Mormon, they're Methodist, I just know, and I read their history. And then I look and see what bills they have sponsored. So if I look and see that, hey, you're pro-medicine, then I know that I can be directed and I can be talking. And also I knew, like, for example, I'll give you a good example. One that wasn't our ally this last time was Senator Blanco. But Blanco and I have become friends, and I'm trying to make him understand why physician-led care is the best care, because guess what? We have a lot of in common. He went to the Navy. I went to the Navy. He served as the armed forces. That was very important to him. I know he's from the West, from El Paso. I have friends from El Paso. I know he likes to drink a michelada. I like michelada. I mean, what I'm saying is that you don't need to be, have an adversarial relationship. I'm trying to make sure I bring him over. Like, come to me. Let
Right.
me tell you about it. So
Right.
that's how I do it. And how I finally end up being prepared is that after I write my written testimony, guess what I do? I don't like to read. I don't come up there with paper. I try to memorize as much as I can, because if I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you in your eyes and I'm talking to you, it's coming from my heart.
True.
And if I'm sitting there just reading something, it looks like I'm just Memorex,
For
sure.
sure.
And I don't think that's important. I think the most important thing, if I can give anyone any expert advice, it's better to be off your A game and not have everything memorized, but to not look like you're not look like you're just basically a word processor spitting out words.
Right.
And so that's what I've always done.
Something that I really find I was impressed by was when we went to I was with you last first Tuesdays.
Yep.
We walked through the Capitol, and the amount of people that you spoke to and knew facts about, and you could tell you were prepared, like how you knew the senator liked micheladas, right? Like you knew that. I could see that in action with small little details. You knew that you asked about their mom, you asked about their family, you checked on their kids. I mean, just small things like that, I think, go a long way for people. And that's just realistically, I think, like people person skills. What went into you becoming such a good people person?
I think that was my problem when growing up. I think I used to get in trouble a lot because I talked in class all the time. But the reason why I talked is because I was always the guy that wanted to get to know you. I'm a big tough guy on the outside, but I'm soft inside. And if we got to get into a fight, I'll be there with you. I'll strap it down, physically, mentally, whatever. But also too, I'm there to console you. I'm also there to be that guy to talk to you. And my ultimate play is, and then you got to experience it just like the CEO got to experience it in Washington D.C. Whenever I'm walking in the halls in the Capitol, I guarantee you, I had more legislators come up to me without me having to go to their office.
Yeah.
And talk to them.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, Ray, how you doing? How you doing? And it makes me feel good, because when they come up to you, it's not because I want them to come up to me. They know they can come and approach me because I have that relationship. You should have seen it at Washington, D.C. Michael Durasett got to go with me to meetings. He's like, he's never seen anything like this. I mean, we were talking to U.S. senators that aren't even our U.S. senators, talking from Arizona, Louisiana, Maryland, both Cornyn and Cruz, talking to
Cool.
We had such a great time.
And I think I told this, I was talking to some other staff members at TMA, and we're speaking about you, and they were asking how you are at the Capitol. And I was saying that something that was very, very interesting that stood out to me is that when you spoke to people, you weren't asking for anything ever. You weren't saying, oh, there's this bill, I really need you to look at it, like, this is super important. You were just talking to them like friends, like you and I are talking.
100%.
It was no formal, hey, this is what I need from you. You asked, how can I help you? Almost every person we spoke to said, you need anything from me? How can I help you? And that was super interesting to me, because it just showed that you're trying to provide value first, and then in return, it's if they want to help out, then they're going to.
Right.
And I think that kind of exchange works well in the legislative process, but in life, I think that's how you should.
That was taught by my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I remember my dad always had two jobs. My mom, they owned a dancing school, and my dad always asked people what they needed, if they needed something. My dad never asked anything in return. My dad would rather give the shirt off his back and go broke before he was so proud to make sure he gave to everyone else before anything was given to him. And so, whenever I was doing that, I always think that way, because I know for a fact that if I need a favor from someone, the time is not to continue to ask him for small favors. The time is only time. It's like, for example, there's legislators right now that could I call him and ask him for a favor? But why call him if I don't need the favor? The only time I call the favor in is whenever I actually need the favor.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, I don't even have to ask for the favor.
Yeah.
All I got to do is say, hey, like if you're a legislator, say, hey, Hunter, how's your mom? How's your dad? How's your wife? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, I'm up here. What are you doing up here? Oh, I'm testifying on this bill. I don't like this bill. I didn't ask for a favor. That's all I say. And then honestly, they just all of a sudden,
The seed's planted.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And it's all about respect. Even if I'm having a shitty day, a bad day, a crappy day, it's always a great day. Because whenever you're in that Capitol or whenever you're talking to someone, I'm blessed. I'm blessed every day. I thank God that I'm a physician.
Yeah.
And I'm also blessed to be in the role that I'm in, because a lot of people can't handle the role, but you got to be able to be in the role. And, like I say, it's not about me, it's about us. But I've been blessed to be in the role at the right time. I really do believe this legislative session.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I said at the beginning. I think it was very intentional that you were the president this session. And something that I've seen with you is you get the same Ray Callas no matter what time of day, no matter where it's at. You are unapologetically yourself. And I think that speaks volume. No one has to guess what you're thinking. You're a very, very straightforward person. And you don't like to hold things back, which I think a lot of people respect. And I think a lot of people can be intimidated by that. But I think, like you said, you're a teddy bear on the inside. They just have to get to know you. They have to be able to open up. And I hope this talk kind of shows that side of you. Because there's something we've spoke about a lot is how physicians as a whole can kind of be put in a box, and people assume that physicians have sunshines and rainbows. They get paid the most amount of money. They don't have to work that much. And it's this luxury life, when in turn, it's not at all like that. Physicians work harder than any other, I think, practice that I know of.
But also, too, we're also human beings. We have demons inside. We have bad days, good days. I mean, that's why I'm always a big believer that physician burnout is real. I don't think we get thanked enough. I don't think that the physicians overall feel like they've been respected. I think that sometimes physicians just need someone to say thank you for what you've done. That's why it's important to me, as being president, in my final message, I'm going to thank every single physician about what they've done. And I want to also make sure that they have an out too. It's okay to cry. It's okay to talk about sadness. But it's not okay to commit suicide. It's not okay to harm yourself, because guess what? There's solutions out there. And I know how strong it is to be overworked, to be undervalued, to be totally ridiculed, to be ostracized. I know what it's like. But you got to take that step and say it's okay to reach out. Just like I told all my friends that are anesthesiologists, it's not okay to try to use drugs, because that drug that you might use could be the end of your life. It's okay to have stress, but it's not okay to be using drugs or to have that out. It's okay to talk. And so, as I move forward, is that I want people to understand that even if you're not respected in your mind, you really are. And even if you having a doubt of something, speak out. Let's talk about it. But yeah, I mean, that's the emotional side of me, that I've seen it firsthand in the military. I've had some of my closest brothers die. We got back from the Gulf War, and having to go talk to a family and letting them know that the man that served on that battlefield is now going home in a casket. I still think about it. It's an emotional drain, but I don't want people to understand that there's an out. You need to be able to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. We thank our former military. We thank our police officers. We thank our first responders, but we do not thank our physicians.
No.
We
You
don't.
never hear anybody saying thank physicians.
No.
We thank our nurses.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But I'm telling you, the people that have probably the most built up stress are physicians, because every person they talk to comes with a different life story.
Yep.
And that life story affects them. And I'll know, and I'm telling you as an anesthesiologist, that if you don't get that person healed, or if you take them to the ICU and they're about to die, part of you die with them, because you take on that responsibility.
Yeah.
And we just need to make sure we have an out. And that's what I think we're doing a lot better, and we're bringing it up. We can't be scared to talk about depression, suicide, and stuff that affects our physicians. But I like what you said. Physicians should be thanked.
I think that should be a movement. I think physicians should be thanked all the time. I think that should be something going forward that we instill in the public, population, is that y'all deserve thanks, and it's not all sunshines and rainbows. And I think that's something that I'm excited for you as you continue this podcast series, that you're going to humanize physicians.
Oh,
And
yes.
I think that needs to happen. I think people need to understand that physicians go through a lot. Physicians are humans. Physicians deal with burnout. Physicians have suicidal thoughts.
Yes.
Y'all handle more burdens than anyone else, in my opinion.
And let's talk something else that's very concerning. We also have a lot of alcoholism and a lot of drug addiction.
Yep.
Because that's what they think is their only escape mechanism, and that's not. So, I'm glad you brought that up too. You're setting me up on a platform that I really want. You created my new podcast called Gas Man MD.
Yep.
I'm already on social media. Thank you for helping me that. But now, so I'm not conflicted. I didn't want to get into this podcasting world until after I get out of the role of TMA president, because I think it's very unfair that if I want to talk about very controversial subjects like med spas, or talking about addiction, or talk about name it.
Yeah.
If I want to talk about it, I want to be that physician that is not using TMA or blindsiding TMA, because I respect TMA.
Right.
But I also didn't want to be conflicted that if I'm talking about it, I want to be completely clear of me being president of TMA, so that way I can have a podcast that will talk about issues that are important, everything from health to everything from safety to risk to scope to name it. I'll be doing a lot of talking.
Well, that's what's next for you. I think that's gonna be very exciting. I think you're gonna have a lot of great guests, and I think this is the best way to start it off.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for having this conversation today. I know this is our first one, but you know what? I feel very comfortable because you make me feel comfortable, but also too, I'm not talking about something that I'm not scared to talk about.
Yeah.
And what you see is what you get. You might not like every podcast that I do, but I'm going to do some very, very aggressive podcasts because I want to humble, and I want people to understand what physicians' lives are all about. And I also want to understand that we're all human too.
Yep.
And just because we put an MD or DO behind our name, we still are born and raised, and we're under God's children. And I want to make sure that we expose and try to get the human side of physicians out and to let them know that they're humans too.
Needs to be heard.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, or thanks for allowing me to join you, and I'm sure we'll have this again.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Texas Medicine. Before I say goodbye, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to talk on my first podcast. Thank you for allowing me to serve the House of Medicine. But more importantly, thank you for allowing me to be me and to lead with me being the one that can be the voice of medicine. And thanks again to all 60,000 physicians, and have a great day.